It's almost there. It's spooling, and the red light is on. Hello, Game Changer Sports Network community. That's right. I'm here. You're confused. Everyone's confused. Why is Nick here for the greatest hockey show this side of the Mississippi? Well, I'm just here to do a quick intro for the greatest talk show in the history of hockey, as far as I'm concerned. I've only listened to one episode, but I think that's all I had to hear. Below me right now is the Canadian destroyer himself, Mr. Shane. Shane, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man.
Good.
Yeah, Canadian
Good.
itself. It's
There
cold
it is.
up here. It's cold up here today, but what else is new?
I was going to say, what? I mean, Canada's always fucking cold, right? That's that. And to my right, I think this is the Worcester Brawler himself, the man, Tim. Tim, what's going on in New England? How are you all doing?
How we doing, boys? How we doing?
Good. There we go. I love it. How you doing? Where's your car keys, right? Come on. So, guys, make sure you stay here for Inside the Ice, the best hockey program in the world. They got so much topics to talk about. And then, of course, follow up with watching our basketball show right after this. How can I get so excited talking about hockey? There's so much exciting hockey going on that I can't talk to it as well as you guys can. I'm out. Have a great show, guys.
Thanks, Nick. So, Tim, buddy, how are you today?
What do we got to do? Shane, how we doing?
Good. What's life over in Boston like today?
It was good after last afternoon. There win. For a play for 12 more hours.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a day for me too. I worked until 8 Eastern, so I literally got off work, grabbed my iPad, and I'm here now. So, all right. So Tim, we've got an exciting show today. Welcome, guys, to the second episode of Inside the Ice. By the way, I'm Shane. I am Game Changer Sports Network's resident Canadian, as you can probably tell by my accent. And Tim is from Boston, as you can probably tell, Boston area from his accent. And these two strongly accented guys are going to be bringing you everything from the world of hockey for the next hour right here on Game Changer Sports Network. Tim, we've got a lot to talk about. First thing I want to talk about, I think you know what it's going to be. How about that quintuple overtime game?
I mean, I couldn't believe that it didn't get over until 9:30 at night, and it was only a 3-2 win.
Yeah, and a couple of things with that game as well. So the final score was 3-2 for Tampa Bay after not one, not two, not three, not four overtimes, 5 overtimes. Tampa Bay won in that game. And another thing too, Korpisalo, Jonas Korpisalo, the Columbus Blue Jackets goaltender, 85 saves. Setting a new NHL playoff record, 85 saves. He broke Kelly Hrudey's record for saves in a playoff game. Kelly Hrudey previously had the record of 77. That was in a 1987 playoff game. And Korpisalo smashed that record. He's got 85. And it actually resulted in something that I've never seen before in all my years of watching hockey. I mean, I'm only 25 years old, but that's a lot of years in my opinion. It actually resulted in a NHL game being pushed back to the next day. And Tim, that's what I want to talk to you about. I know that you're a Bruins fan. How upsetting was that as a Bruins fan, having a game that you were so looking forward to being pushed back to the next day in the morning when almost everyone on the East Coast is at work?
It was like first day of the playoffs. Everybody's pumped for 8:00 p.m. game. That's not that late.
Everyone's drinking, everything, getting ready for the
overtimes. It won't be over. And then I see, now we hit double overtime. It's going to be postponed a little bit. Triple overtime a little bit more. Fourth overtime.
Mm-hmm.
This game might not even happen right now.
Yeah.
And then I see 11:00 Eastern time in the morning. Like, I'm going to be at work at that time. How am I going to see that game? There's no way I'm going to even see that game.
Yeah, and that game was a game in itself too. That one went to double overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and so that's the game that you don't want to miss for sure.
that even that game resulted in the Islanders Capitals game being pushed back an hour.
Yeah, like just crazy. And that's what you're gonna get with this hub city scenario here. Just you have games that are like I think they're spaced 4 hours in between each other. Then you have games like that go double, triple overtime, and then you end up having games pushed back or even pushed back to the next day. But why not be different? It's a 2020. Yeah. It's not a normal year. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about before the next topic here, Tim. This was the longest game. Fourth longest game in NHL history. Longest game lasted 6 overtimes. That was on March 24th of 1936, where Detroit beat Montreal 1-0 after 6 overtimes.
Madness.
No goals scored till it took 9 periods.
Yeah, 3 games and there's 1 goal.
Yeah, literally. And in that game, believe it or not, the shots were only 62-59 for Detroit.
What year was that? 1996?
1936.
Oh, 1936. Ah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 62-59 were the shots, and then you have Tampa Bay firing like 88 shots on Korpisalo in 5 periods, like just crazy madness. Going back to Boston, though, we're going to switch over. Now, one thing that was a big concern for Bruins fans is they were kind of worried about like where their top line was. You know, the top line of David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, nowhere to be found that entire round robin round. Like maybe the only person to show up was Pastrnak, but yeah. One thing that I wanted to talk about is how do you feel about the top line? I know Patrice Bergeron, he obviously netted the double overtime winner for the Bruins in Game 1. And how do you feel about the resurgence of Boston's top line? I know Bergeron, like I said, scored the winning goal. It was assisted by Pastrnak and Marchand. How do you feel about the top line for Boston? And do you think that they are here to play hockey now?
It was good to see him flowing again like a well-oiled machine. Like that was 2 goals. There was the Pastrnak goal where it was right off the all 3 of them touched the puck and then Pastrnak put it in. And then Bergeron goal. I mean, they looked good that game, but that also was 1 game. So who knows?
Sure.
We need to see what happens the next couple games. I think even if Boston were to come out and win the next game, the way that the Hurricanes are coached, they're a team that can go 6 or 7 games in the series. They are just ways to win games. So I don't think Boston walking through the Hurricanes at all. And if they do, then that might just be an increased threat to the rest of the NHL out of nowhere.
So how do you think the game's going to go tonight?
I want to say that Boston should win this game tonight.
Heather, sorry, Tim, I'm just going to cut you off here. Heather Young said, with Pasta out, at least we have Krejci, the playoff guy. You can't forget he was a big part of the 2011 Stanley Cup. He's old, though, isn't he, David Krejci?
He's like 33, 34, but his hands in Game 1 were looking really good.
Were they? I did not watch Game 1. I was working, but
he looked really sharp in Game 1.
Wow, that's good. And like I just feel like David Krejci's been around forever. Like, I feel like he's a lot older than 33, 34. So what are the key points do you think to what do you think are the key points to the game for Boston to get past Carolina? Like you said, it's not going to be an easy task. What does Boston need to do really, really well in order to have a chance against the Hurricanes?
Well, the biggest thing always is you got to have a good goalie. Raskast ain't good. And then we got to get Kruger, McAvoy producing somewhat of any bit on defense. And then that top line, I know Pasta's out, but Bergeron, Marchand, they got to be rolling for this team to win, I think.
So who do you think replaces Pasta on the top line? Do you think Krejci's going to go up there?
I don't think so because he's a center. So
True.
I don't think you would put a second line center. But
What about DeBrusque?
that was my guess is
Yeah.
throw a young talent winger up there and then throw Coyle a chance on the second line because Coyle is always on the third line.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's worth a shot, right? Like you have DeBrusque with playing alongside Marchand and Bergeron. You never know. Like, I mean, obviously, like that's not going to be last long. As soon as Pass is back, there's no way they're going to put Pass on the second line.
No.
But I mean, you could definitely, like, if I'm Bruce Cassidy, maybe start DeBrusque there, see how it goes. Maybe DeBrusque isn't clicking with the top line. Maybe you put Coyle up there. I think the Bruins are. They have enough forward depth that I think they should be able to. Obviously, Pass is a huge loss, but I think they have enough forward depth that they should be able to get through it, no problem. But the Hurricanes are a stingy team, man. They don't go away.
No, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I could see them forcing this to game 6, game 7. And if they do that, who knows? Maybe they actually take it from the Bruins.
For sure, yeah. You're not going to like me, Tim. I have in my predictions Carolina beating Boston in 7.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but I made those predictions based on the round robin play where Boston was like non-existent. Boston, I watched the highlight. I didn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights of game 1, and they looked real good from what I could see. So you never know, like that could change, obviously. And honestly, I think if Boston can come out with a win tonight, they're up 2-0. They're gonna have all the momentum. Who knows what could happen, right? I think tonight's a big game for Boston, even though they're up in the series. You don't want to let Carolina back in it.
I definitely don't.
For sure. Another task here. This was kind of breaking news in the hockey world today. Don't know if you heard about this, Tim. Montreal Canadiens head coach Claude Julien out for the remainder of the series. He was admitted to hospital last night with severe chest pains. He's in a hospital in Toronto. He's doubtful to return for the remainder of the series against Philadelphia. And Montreal assistant coach Kirk Muller is set to take over coaching duties. And this is a huge loss for Montreal. And I'll tell you why. For one thing, Claude Julien, even though the Canadiens haven't been like super successful under his tenure, Claude Julien is a great coach, I think. For another thing, players, I think, are going to be rattled. You have your head coach, a guy that like is your front and center the entire season. And, he goes down like that in the hospital. Players are going to be concerned. They're not going to be in their right mindset. I think this is a big loss for Montreal.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Julien, I mean, as a Bruins fan, he was the coach when we won the Cup. He's a hell of a coach.
For sure.
And it's just, I think it's impressive that Montreal got through Pittsburgh, and now they're playing Philadelphia. They only lost 2-1. It's not like they got blown out in game 1. They're in the series as of right now. So, as much as Claude Julien's a great coach, I think the Montreal Canadiens' best bet is for Carey Price to shut everybody down.
Right, and he has been. Corey Costa says, of course, another overtime game while Bruins are next. That aggravates me. Did Tampa and Columbus really go to overtime? I've been working all day. I haven't had a chance to look. Are they in overtime right now?
No, I'm watching. I want to say it's because Vegas and Chicago are playing on network.
Could be.
And they went overtime. So they're doing a live looking right now of Bruins and Hurricanes, but they're probably going to go back to Vegas and Chicago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And that's what you're going to get with, these hub cities, like I said, when you have 6-7 games being played in 2 arenas every day, no matter who you're a fan of, you're probably, like stuff like that happens. And then if you're a fan of the Bruins or the Hurricanes, your game gets delayed because of overtime. And it's, like I said, it's just a part of the world that's going on right now. So how does this affect the Canadiens? Like, obviously they're playing a team as if like Philadelphia, who has looked like unreal.
Yeah.
All playoffs. Mike Rosa says that can't do both ways. It could also make them more hungry to do it for him, in my opinion, which I agree. either it could rattle them to the point where, like their head's not in the game because their coach is, in the hospital. Everyone's kind of concerned for him. But at the same time, I do agree with what Mike said. They're going to want to win this series for Claude, and they're going to want him back behind the bench for round 2. And, this could motivate them to really, shut down Philadelphia. Carey Price, unreal. Carey Price alone stole that series against Pittsburgh. Carey Price is the entire reason. I mean, the whole team played good, but Carey Price, arguably the reason why they got by Pittsburgh. Carey Price kept them in that game against Philadelphia in game 1. He is, obviously the one of the keys to the game for Montreal. Carey Price has to be standing on his head every game. He has been unreal. Probably the best goaltender in the playoffs so far. Now, how do you think, obviously, stacking up the goaltenders here, before we do that, are there any teams that surprise you? Like, what is your thought on New York Islanders? How far do you see them go, Tim?
I mean, the Islanders this past game really shocked me when they beat the Caps 4-2.
Same.
They were 2-0, and then they go out and score 4 unanswered goals.
Right.
If they can get past the Capitals, the Islanders, I think the sky is the limit for them, because
for sure
they have a good team, a good goalie, and a good coach. So if they can just catch fire right now, I think their biggest task right now is getting past the Capitals. And once they're into that, they very well could reach the Final Four.
I'm guilty as charged. I have been underestimating the Islanders all season. They're just one of those teams that don't get coverage in Canada, right? Like I don't want to say they're a small market team, but they're like the Coyotes, the Panthers, the Islanders, the Hurricanes. Neither of those teams really get coverage in Canada a whole lot. So it's just kind of, I've been kind of underestimating them because I don't watch them a lot, so I don't really know the team a lot. But you can't deny they do have Barry Trotz. They do have, like you said, a great goalie. We lost Tim. We have Jake now, apparently. What's up, Jake?
How are you? I was working backstage and saw Tim just disappear, so I popped on real quick for you.
For sure. Do you know your hockey? Can you fill in for Tim?
I can do my best. But I don't think you need to run this show by yourself. So I'm here. I'll bounce some things off of you. We'll do what we can.
For sure. Yeah.
Tim's reconnecting right now. Okay, so here's
awesome.
Tim.
Awesome. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. There's Tim. Welcome back, Tim. Nice to see you. All right. So yeah, as I was talking, they have a good coach. Barry Trotz obviously won a cup with the Capitals. And I do think, it's quite the experience for Barry Trotz coaching against his old team in the first round. But I mean, now is the time where Barry Trotz, man, he coached this team, like I said, 2 years ago when they won the Stanley Cup. If anyone knows the Capitals, it's Barry Trotz.
Exactly.
You have players like Alex Ovechkin, TJ Oshie, Nicholas Backstrom. All those guys were on the team when they won this cup. And, Barry Trotz knows this team, knows they're his opponent better than anyone else on the Islanders. I think the best thing for the Islanders right now is to have Barry Trotz behind the bench. And I did have Washington beating the Islanders, but, the Islanders looked awesome last night. I watched part of that game. They looked unreal.
They look almost scary.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Capitals beating the Islanders too, but who knows after last night's game?
Yeah, and I never really put that into thought. I just thought of that now that Barry Trotz, is an ex-Capitals coach. That might have changed my opinion a little bit, but yeah, the Islanders, like you said, the sky's the limit for them. If they get by Washington, they could easily get by any team in the East for sure. Except maybe not Philadelphia. Philadelphia looks scary. Unreal scary. Which leads us into our next topic here. We're going to compare goaltenders in that series, Philadelphia and Montreal. Who has the advantage in net between Carter Hart and Carey Price?
I think right now it's got to go to Carey Price just because of the name.
For sure.
Because Carter Hart, he's only played 3 games.
Yeah.
Playoffs. So, yeah, he's played extremely well.
For sure.
Average. Like, he's absolutely sun his head in those 3 games. But also,
Mhm.
look, I want to say Philadelphia as a team, minus the goaltender, is a lot better than mine.
Philadelphia's got a lot more well-rounded team, which, in my opinion, makes Carter Hart look better than he is.
Yeah.
Because they bail him out a lot. But Carter Hart, he's no denying he's got talent. He is a sophomore goaltender. He won a gold medal in the World Juniors with Team Canada 2 or 3 years ago. I just saw something on the internet here that I thought I'd share. They were comparing Carey Price and Carter Hart, and they looked at the regular season stats before the age of 22. Carter Hart is like identical in numbers to Carey Price. And I'll tell you what, Carey Price played 93 games before he turned 22. Carter Hart played 74. Carter Hart's got a better goals against average than Carey Price did before 22. Carey Price was 2.71. Carter Hart's 2.59. Save percentage, Carter Hart is 0.915. Carey Price is 0.912. Do you see Carter Hart being like Carey Price caliber in years to come?
I think
Or do you think it's just kind of, he looks good because of the team that he's on?
I don't think he's in the case where he looks good because of the team he's on. I think he's very talented. But I don't think just because he puts up the same numbers that Carey Price does, he's going to play the same style. I wouldn't necessarily say that Carter Hart is the same style goaltender as Carey Price.
Now, do you think Carter Hart is the future in net for Philadelphia?
As of right now, yes, based off of how much struggle they've had in the last 4 to 5 years trying to find a starting goaltender.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Carter Hart's definitely, he's impressed. He's been very, very reliable for the Flyers. And, he's looking at his record here in the regular season. He's in his second year, and he's got 40 wins, 26 losses, and 4 OTLs in his record there as a starting goaltender, which isn't a shabby record. There's nothing bad about that. That's a record of 40, 26, and 4. That'll get you into the playoffs. 84 points. That'll sneak you in there. Carey Price in his first games before he turned 22 was 47, 28, and 13 was his record. Carter Hart also has 3 shutouts. Carey Price had 4. So, you look at those numbers and it's like, man, maybe Carter Hart is one of those goaltenders you got to start really talking about as an elite goaltender in the league. But at another perspective, it is only his second year, and you look at goalies like Cam Talbot in that year that the Oilers made it to the playoffs second round or lost to Anaheim. Cam Talbot looked like the future net to the Oilers, and now look how far that's got them, right? So,
exactly.
It all depends on, one good year. He has to keep that play up definitely in years to come, because I feel like with as much goaltender struggles, like you said, as Philadelphia's had, one bad year could cost, maybe ship Carter Hart out of town for sure in Philadelphia. Which reminds me about another goaltender by the name of Henrik Lundqvist. Is he in trouble in New York?
It depends on the way the management wants to go about that. If they want to keep youth and they want to keep the 2 young guys, then yeah, he's probably going to get shipped out. But they want to try to take a gamble and say, oh, one of these 24-year-olds is better than the other. We'll stick him with Henrik as the backup.
And at the same time, Henrik's been on that team for as long as I can remember. He's a great veteran presence.
To stay there one more year, even as a backup.
Well, he can be a mentor, right? Sit on the bench, act as a mentor for Shesterkin or Georgiev or whoever they go with.
And you can trade the other goalie for prospects or picks or whatever. Or even if you want to re-sign him, you could probably send him on a 2-way contract so he can play in the AHL.
For sure. I was just actually going to get into this topic, Mike Rosa. Thanks for bringing it up. Jeff Gorton did say the Rangers won't be carrying 3 goalies next year. He said hopefully this is bye-bye to Henrik, and Shesterkin and Georgiev can be the future. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Henrik actually he carries a cap hit of 8.5 million. He's going into the final year of a 7-year contract. Now this could go both ways. Either you could keep him on the team and have him as like that mentor, veteran presence for either Georgiev or Shesterkin, or you can trade him, get rid of his cap hit of 8.5 million, and then that frees up the door to bring, another top defenseman, maybe another younger, well-proven goaltender to the team. What are your thoughts on that, Tim? Like, where do you think the Rangers can go with that if they were to ship Hank out?
I think the problem with sending him off to another team and releasing the cap hit is that you're probably still going to have to pay for it. I don't know if many teams are going to be willing to accept the 8.5 million cap hit.
Especially for an aging goaltender, like he has been kind of inconsistent. I mean, rightfully so. He's 38 years old. He doesn't have a whole lot of playing left in him. But that's the thing, right? Like, who's going to take on a 38-year-old goaltender with 1 year left on his contract for $8.5 million?
That's why I'm saying pay him 1 more year, let him be the backup, a role model to the better of the two goalies. And then after that, he goes off a free agent at 39 years old, and you don't lose nothing.
Very, very good point. Now, if you were to keep Lundqvist on the bench, who do you ship out? Because like Mike Rose has said, Jeff Gorton said he's not carrying 3 goalies next year.
Yeah. 1
goalie's going to have to go. Who do you get rid of then, Georgiev or Shesterkin?
I don't know. I think it would have to come down to something like isn't like a training camp or something before they have to make their decision.
Yeah. I was just going to say, keep the 3 goalies, let them battle it out in training camp. Whichever goaltender performs better in training camp and preseason, that's, in my opinion, who you would take, right? Georgiev has looked awesome, but Shesterkin was a big reason why the Rangers, went on that hot streak at the latter part of the season before shutdown. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Rangers do there. Definitely, for sure. Panarin, also Artemi Panarin. What are your thoughts on him? Because he was like non-existent in that series against Carolina.
I think the entire New York Rangers was just embarrassing, that entire series. I don't think they
honestly, man, like I had New York Rangers as my dark horse team. When I was making my predictions, which by the way, I did awful. I went 1 for 7 on my predictions article for the play-in round. Just brutal. I had New York as my dark horse team in the East just because I looked at them on paper. Okay, you got Panarin, you've got Zibanejad, you've got Kaapo Kakko, you've got Lundqvist, Georgiev in net. It's a good team on paper, and they embarrassed themselves against Carolina. Like, they didn't even put up a fight.
No. Right from the Carolina Hurricanes dominated them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Carolina, in every single aspect of that series, was the better team. They deserved to move on. And now they find themselves locked in a very, very tough battle with Boston. I'm going to turn that game on, too, as soon as I'm done with this show. Moving on to our next topic, I feel like this is one that we need to talk about. There's been a lot of talk after the Rangers, we were just talking about them, won the draft lottery. Rangers are going to get Alexis Lafreniere. Is basically decided. Lafreniere is basically the decided first overall pick. Sound off in the comments below and let us know what you guys think on this. Is the draft lottery an unfair process in the NHL? Because you look at this, New York Rangers won the draft lottery. They finished the regular season 40 points ahead of Detroit. Detroit was the last place team. New York Rangers finished 40 points ahead of Detroit. They got the first overall pick. Detroit drops down to 4th. Now, what are your thoughts on that, Tim? Again, guys, sound off in the comments. What are your thoughts on the draft lottery? Do you think there need to be changes made?
I don't understand how a team that could make the qualifying round of the playoffs win the draft lottery. I think the teams that were completely eliminated from the playoffs, worst to least worst, should be the first pick. Like, Detroit should definitely have the first pick after being the worst team in the league.
Mm-hmm. Or, you could do it the way I look at it is the way the lottery was this year, embarrassing.
Yeah.
It was just a disgrace, and I'll tell you why. Because you have a team like Edmonton or Pittsburgh that, given a full 82 game season, there was no doubt in my mind both those teams were making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And given a full course from 82 game season, Edmonton or Pittsburgh wouldn't even be close to in the running for the first overall pick, because then you would just go by the teams that missed the playoffs, put them all in the system there, and pick from there. The chance that Edmonton or Pittsburgh or even Toronto had a chance at the first overall pick is just awful. And then you have it like, if either one of those three teams would have won the draft lottery, the hockey world would have just imploded. Because you look at a team like Edmonton, they've got 5 overall picks in the past how many years? You've got McDavid, Taylor Hall, Nugent Hopkins, Yakupov, which God knows where he is, thank God. And then you've got Connor McDavid. I mean, and then you got Toronto, who has like Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander, and then Pittsburgh's got Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Gensel. Like, either one of those teams, if they would have got the first overall pick, like that, the hockey world would have just been turned on its head. So what needs to change, I guess? Like, because if I would have done the draft lottery, what I would have did is do the entire thing after the play-in round. Or take, the 7 teams that didn't make the play-in round, and then take so you got 7 teams that didn't make it. So then the 8 teams that had the lowest win percentage after that, and have them all in the running. Like Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Toronto shouldn't have even. I know they lost the play-in round, but a team like Nashville, Arizona, Chicago, they all had lower winning percentages. Put them in the draft lottery. If you're going to do it, I mean, I get that there was a change made this year, but like, I just think that Edmonton, Pittsburgh, Toronto, it was just a disgrace having them in there. You should have had the teams with like the 7 teams and then the next 8 lowest win percentages, if you're going to do anything like that, and then have the draft lottery, all those 16 teams all together. You know what I mean?
Or who says there needs to be a draft lottery? Just do whoever finished worst
last, yeah,
right up, and that's probably the fairest.
That's how the NFL does it, right?
Yeah, the team that finished worst should get the first pick. Like, it shouldn't be let's pick a ball out of a jug to see who gets the first pick. Like,
exactly. And I've never really been I'll tell you this much: the only way I've been a fan of the draft lottery, obviously, is when the Oilers got McDavid, because he's no problem, or like undecidedly. Oh, we got Jake.
I have a quick question.
For sure.
Can somebody please explain to me why the commissioner has to verify the team logos before they get dropped into that stupid little air thing?
See, I was actually wondering that same thing. Everyone.
So it wasn't just me; it was actual hockey
everyone,
fans too.
Everyone and their dog knows what the logo looks like. I was watching that lottery and I was like, okay, really? You got to ask Gary Bettman if this is the logo? Any hockey fan knows this is the team's logo. Get on with the lottery. I found that to just be stupid. That was a good question, Jake. I'm with you on that one for sure. I had no idea what was going on there.
Vegas just beat Chicago in overtime right now.
Oh, right on. I hope Chicago loses just because I'm a bitter Oilers fan. Which, I mean, like, which team from the West do you think has the best chance? Colorado. Honestly, that game between Colorado and Arizona last night, I was surprised to see that game be 0-0 yet in the third period, and all of a sudden Colorado exploded for like 3 goals in like a minute and a half.
Yeah, besides that third period, that game was neck and neck. I mean, we were joking about them the last show, but even like just looking at how they played in the qualifying round, they're like a wild card team. I feel like, where you never know what's going to show up. But Colorado, I feel like, has to be able to beat them in a 7-game series.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And Colorado obviously is like heavily favored in the West. I think everyone that I talk to is like, who's your favorite team in the West that to win the cup? And they're like, oh, Colorado. It's either Colorado or Vegas. Those are the two teams I hear.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to switch it up a bit before we go into first round predictions. Mike Rosa says here, all I know is a roster with Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Fox, Kako, and Lafreniere makes me so excited for the future. So he's obviously a Rangers fan. But yeah, you got a team like that, which is brings us back to another point. He says, I've been a Ranger fan my whole life, and I love what Henrik did, but it's time for Shesterkin to come in, and he looked phenomenal before he got hurt, and Georgiev isn't that far off either. I wouldn't want to get rid of either one of those guys. Which also, like, I mean, that just explains to me again how flawed the draft lottery system is. Like Mike Rosa said, you have a team like, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Shesterkin, Georgiev, Fox, Trouba, all those guys there who are like top-notch A-list players. And a team like that wins the draft lottery, and now they get to add Alexis Lafreniere onto the team. You know, like, it's just Detroit needs all the help they can get at the time. And picking fourth overall, like, yeah, the draft lottery, the class of 2020 looks really good this year. But Detroit Red Wings needed a franchise player, which is what I strongly feel like Alexis Lafreniere will be. But, like, man, Detroit and Ottawa both just got screwed in that draft lottery, man. Like, both of those franchises, like I said, they both need all the help they can get. They go and just get obliterated in this draft lottery. And now you got a team like the Rangers, who one of those teams that doesn't really need a first overall pick, drafting Lafreniere. If I was a Red Wings or a Senators fan, I would have every right to be ticked off with how that draft lottery turned out.
Yeah.
100%. Who do the Red Wings have? I can't name 3 players on the Red Wings, you know?
Oh, and everybody's like, oh, they have a ton of draft picks coming up. They have a ton of draft picks coming up. When you look on the draft board, it's not like they're overly abundant in draft picks.
Exactly. And, I mean, the best thing that could have happened to the Red Wings was making Steve Yzerman their GM. Steve Yzerman arguably made Tampa Bay the team that they are today. But you look at the absolute dumpster fire that Steve Yzerman picked up in Detroit, you got to feel for that guy. How do you fix a team like that?
I feel so bad for him. He helped to lead that team to numerous Stanley Cups, brought Detroit back from glory after, like, the 50s. They didn't win anything ever since then. And now he bring them back after they fell to complete shit. Like, that is
literally. And I mean, you have the Red Wings. They were a team not too long ago. They won like a 25-year consecutive playoff streak. They hadn't missed the playoffs in 25 years, and now they are like the laughingstock of the NHL. So I mean, and like I said, like, I mean, I feel for Red Wings fans. I do, because you had a dynasty of a team for so many years, and now you have like it's gonna take 3, 4, maybe even 5 years for them to even get close to the team they were when they were making playoffs for 25 straight years.
Well, look how long it's taken the Rangers to rebound. Look how long the Devils have been in the dumpster for a few years. And
hell, man, the Oilers, look how many first overall picks they've got. They're still not even, like, you can't make the playoffs with McDavid and Draisaitl on your team, for God's sakes.
Once you get to the bottom, it's extremely hard to get back to the top, and it takes a long time.
Exactly.
Unless you have a really smart GM that makes a couple good moves.
Well, and like Buffalo, another thing is Buffalo. They're going on 10 straight years without making the playoffs. Very, very, very incapable GM, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Jason Botterill, who's that? You know, Buffalo is a type of team. You've got players like Jack Eichel, especially. Rasmus Ristolainen on defense, a defensive stud for years to come. You should be building the team around those guys, and you need an experienced GM to do that. Buffalo's not going to go anywhere. And, like, you got to feel for a guy like Jack Eichel. Like, you know, obviously McDavid was going number 1 that draft year, but a guy like Jack Eichel is a very, very experienced player, or not experienced, I guess, very, very good player, talented young guy. He doesn't have like a minute of playoff experience under his belt. And you got to feel for him, man. Like, and he's getting frustrated. He's went out on numerous occasions to the public, laid into the Sabres management, said something's got to change. I'm sick of losing. I'm tired of being on a losing team. Something needs to change here. So Buffalo needs to, get their act together and get someone that's capable of actually running this team.
And at some point, it's got to become, it's not just this one player's fault. Like,
Exactly.
Good as like anyone's ever been, and you'd still be the one so much. And
which brings us back to the Oilers. Like, everyone's talking about how the Oilers lost out in the play-in round, and everyone's like, "Oh man, what a joke!" You have the two best players in the league in McDavid and Draisaitl. You missed the playoffs even. Everyone's putting the blame on them, when in reality, who do the Oilers have on defense?
Exactly.
They have so many defensive holes. Ken Holland has his work cut out for him. And Mike Smith, god-awful in playoffs.
Yeah.
I firmly believe if you would have started Mikko Koskinen in game one, that series would have been different. Oilers would have won that game, I feel. They still had managed to score 4 goals. They would have won game one. That would have been a different series. You start Mike Smith, and then not only that, Dave Tippett pulls him after 5 goals. Why don't you pull him after 3? To this day, that still makes me mad.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's for another story. We got one more topic to talk about before we get into predictions and just other viewer comments here. Florida Panthers and GM Dale Talon part ways. They agreed to mutually part ways on, I believe, Monday. So what's next for the Panthers franchise? They already struggled to hold steady attendance at home games. What's next? What does the Panthers like? What do they have to do now? Like, there's not really any available GMs on the market. Like, what do you think? Where do you think the Panthers go from here?
I mean, I think the Panthers pretty much are where they are right now. They have a good coach, and in the past few years, they've acquired a few good players, but they're never going to have a good market, period. I don't think they will. Like, Bay steals all of Florida. Bay has all the flash and everything. But even, like, the Panthers, where are they going to relocate to? I feel like if they were going to have any hints of relocating, we would start now.
And, I mean, you look at Tampa. Tampa's doing well, and I'll tell you why. Because Tampa's always had, like, they haven't really had an exceptional team, but they've had, like, franchise players. Yeah. They've had guys in, like, the early 2000s. They had, like, Vinny Lecavalier, Martin St. Louis, players like that, right? And so they had, like, good players that people wanted to go watch. Now they've got players like Kucherov, Stamkos, Victor Hedman. They've got a good team, and I firmly believe the reason why the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing so well, fans-wise, is because people in Tampa know they have a good team to go and support. People in Miami, where the Florida Panthers play out of, Florida Panthers have been irrelevant for so many years, and Miami, like, really, like, they're the most southern city almost in the States you can possibly get.
Yeah.
They don't care about hockey down there, no matter who you talk about. Maybe it'd be a different story if, Panthers were good and had relevant players. But, there's not one, maybe Jonathan Huberdeau, that's pushing it. But Jonathan Huberdeau's maybe the franchise player there, and he's not even a player I would consider to be a franchise player.
Exactly.
So until they get that one, which, I mean, it would have been a blessing in disguise if the Panthers won the lottery. Which, I mean, I thought for sure they would have. They should have, but until that they get that one player that pushes them over the edge and makes the Panthers relevant again, I don't see them getting any attendance at home games anymore.
No, like, I haven't seen any Panthers fans at their games besides, like, since the late 90s.
And I don't know of any Panthers fans. I mean. I live in Canada, so it's different. But, like, even, like, I know of people that are Devils fans. I know people that are Bruins fans. People that are even Lightning fans. I not one person that I've met with hockey being as big as it is up here in Canada. Not one person that I've met has been a Panthers fan.
No.
And it's just they haven't won a cup. They haven't really been relevant in playoffs in many years. and that's another thing. I mean, the Panthers were speaking to Montreal assistant GM Scott Mellenby, but at the same time, who's that? Heather Young just asked if Panthers could locate to Hamilton, Ontario. Don't they have a rink? Yeah, that's a good question. If any team is going to relocate to Canada, I would say they're going to relocate to Quebec City.
Yeah.
I don't
Quebec.
know about Hamilton. I mean, one thing with Hamilton is that'd be a good rivalry with Toronto because Hamilton and Toronto are in such close proximity to each other. But Quebec City, man, Quebec City just built that brand. There's like a Videotron Center or Video Technic Center or something like that. It's something along the lines of that name. It's a brand new 18,000 arena. They've hosted concerts there in Quebec City. If anyone is going to expand into Canada or relocate into Canada, it's going to be Quebec City, in my opinion. And bring back the Nordiques, baby.
Quebec City needs a team. It's a long
For sure, yeah.
They got robbed when the Nordiques had to leave. I understand at the time they weren't like financially okay, but Quebec needs a team again. And if the Florida Panthers aren't going to do it, look at the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are a solid team that's respectable, and still, even they struggle with attendance, and they're not even as south as Florida is.
And Arizona is another one as well.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing for the Panthers is, I mean, I realize there's not very many options other than Peter Chiarelli, but for God's sakes, if you're the Panthers, do not hire Peter Chiarelli.
No.
Because as a Brewers fan and an Oilers fan, we've had many, many great experiences with that guy.
That won't be relocated. That will get your team shut down.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't really have many options if you're the Panthers, which I mean, another one that maybe you could look at is Kelly McCrimmon. Or no, not Kelly McCrimmon because he's a GM of Vegas. George McPhee.
Yeah.
Or is he the GM of Seattle? Is that why he stepped down?
I don't know because George McPhee used to be the GM of Vegas.
Vegas, yeah, and then something happened where either he stepped down or he took another job or something, and now Kelly McCrimmon is. But I'm not sure if George McPhee took that job in Seattle or Ron Francis is the GM in Seattle.
Yeah,
Ron Francis. So depending on what George McPhee's doing, maybe give him an interview because you saw the kind of team that he picked up in Vegas. Vegas made it to the Stanley Cup final their first year in their inaugural year, for God's sakes. So I would say if you're the Panthers, maybe see what he's doing, interview George McPhee. Obviously, if he has another job somewhere and he's happy with that job, then, I mean, it's only going to be the luck of the draw, right? But the Panthers got to do something to get those players. Like, I mean, and then you part ways with Trocheck. And, I mean, you get a buttload of players in return. But, I mean, those Panthers. What was that, sorry?
You got Bobrovsky in that.
Yeah, which, I mean, Bobrovsky's good. And you got Quenneville behind the bench, who's a 3-time Stanley Cup winning coach. Something's got to change in Florida, though. That's all that I can say for sure. And given the right team, Quenneville could turn this team around. If any coach is gonna turn that team around, it's gonna be Joel Quenneville. He was completely well respected in Chicago. He's a proven coach. Like I said, he's won 3 cups. Quenneville just needs that team to build around for sure. We got about 10 minutes left before we hand it over to Behind the Basket with Elizabeth and Hunter. Which, by the way, guys, do not go anywhere because they've got one heck of a show. They've got tons of playoff basketball to talk about. It's going to be an exciting show there. For the last 10 minutes here, Tim, first round predictions. We're going to rattle off some predictions here. Vegas, Chicago, who you got?
Right now, I got Vegas because they're up 2-0. Chicago's in the hole right now.
They're looking good. And I picked Vegas also before that series started.
I picked Vegas in 7 going into it, but they might be able to end it sooner.
I think I picked Vegas in 5. I'll give Chicago 1 game just because of what they did to the Oilers, Kane and Kubalik and Taves. Chicago just took Vegas to overtime, one lucky bounce that could have went series 1-1. I got Vegas in that one, though, in 5. Calgary, Dallas.
I'm going Calgary.
Same. I got Calgary in that one as well. Calgary's up 1-0 in that series. I believe game 2 is tonight.
Yep.
I got Calgary in 6 in that series. Colorado and Arizona.
Colorado.
Yeah, 100% Colorado on my end as well. I got Colorado in 4. I don't think Arizona really stands a chance against Colorado, in my opinion. Colorado's just too strong. They've looked too good.
Not match up well with Colorado.
Yeah, for sure. Although Arizona did impress me holding Colorado to 0-0 midway through the third period last night, and then they kind of let it slip away from them in that minute 15 span where Colorado scored 3 goals. Here's another interesting one. Vancouver, St. Louis. Who you got?
Originally, I picked St. Louis, but I mean, Vancouver's been impressing me a lot. So
Vancouver looked so good last night.
after last night, I'm back on my predictions, but I want to say Vancouver's going to steal this one.
You know, Tim, this is another topic here. I don't know if we have time to discuss this, but Vancouver is one of those teams that did a rebuild right.
Yeah.
They had a good team. They made it to the Cup final that one year in 2011 where they lost to Boston. They had Henrik Sedin. The Sedins retired. Now you got to find those franchise players after the Sedins. They did it so well. They developed their players so nicely. They've got Horvat, Pedersen, Quinn Hughes, Brock Besser, Chris Tanev. They've got the team, and they've got a really good team, and they're progressing and rebuilding so well, and they're ahead of schedule in my opinion. And I've got Vancouver beating St. Louis in this series. I picked them before the series started just because Vancouver is one of those teams that they can surprise. They start clicking. They beat St. Louis 5-2 last night. I've got Vancouver in this series.
Yeah. Right now, I'm with Vancouver.
For sure. Awesome, man. And then shifting over to the East, Philly, Montreal. Who you got?
I'm going Philly. Philly is just too powerful right now for Montreal to take them down.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it to Carey Price. He can stand on his head all he wants. Philly's going to find a way to beat them, I think.
I've got Carey Price stealing 2 games for Montreal, but Philly winning the series 4-2 in 6. That's my predictions. Like you said, Philly's too strong. Giroux, Provorov, Voracek, they're all firing on all cylinders. Gostisbehere, everyone.
Philly for the next few years. I think
Philly's going to be dangerous for sure. Yeah, definitely. Washington Islanders.
Like St. Louis and Vancouver, I picked Washington to win, but after seeing the Islanders play, that series can very well go right down to 7 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders just take it.
For sure. Thanks for tuning in, Heather. We'll see you next time. We'll be on again Thursday night from 8 to 9 Eastern. Definitely tune in. Yeah, I picked Washington 2 in this series, but I don't know. The Islanders looked scary last night, man. We'll see how game 2 goes. I think if Washington wins game 2, obviously the series is going to be 1-1, so then they obviously stand a chance. But Islanders take next game, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to switch over to Islanders on that one. I don't think with the way Islanders are playing, I don't know if they take game 2. I don't know if Washington would be able to come back. Plus, I mean, the Islanders in itself, Barry Trotz over Washington's coach, Todd Reirden. Trotz has so much experience. Like I said, I mean, like we mentioned earlier in the show, Trotz knows this Capitals team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders take this one either. Tampa, Columbus, Tim.
I'm going Columbus in 7. I'm sticking to my
You're going Columbus. Wow. Surprising, man.
When I did my first round predictions, I picked them Columbus in 7. Tied 1-1 right now.
5-minute warning, guys. 5-minute.
5-minute warning. Awesome, Jake. Thanks. We're almost done here. I've got Tampa in 6, but man, Columbus won 3-1 today. Crazy. Yeah, I don't know. That game could go. Columbus looks good too. They're another team that looks really good. Your favorite one, best for last, Tim. Boston, Carolina.
Gotta go Boston in 6.
I was gonna say, holy, Boston in 6. I've got Carolina. Martin Lee says he's late, came in last minute, but Boston looked great in the first. Yeah, I'm gonna turn that game on right away here. But yeah, I've got Carolina in 7.
They're up 1-0 right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. If Boston wins, obviously, I won't have Carolina in 7. But as of right now, I've got Carolina in 7. Last, before we hand over the reins to Elizabeth and Hunter, real quick, team, or Tim, sorry, not team. Which team wins the cup this year and why? And what is it that pushes this team over the edge?
Killing me. Every time it's what team wins the cup. I'm sticking to my guns, Colorado right now.
Colorado?
Colorado.
What pushes them over the edge?
I just think they have the best overall team right now, and in a 7-game series, they're going to be able to beat anybody.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I gotta stick the same Colorado. You've got Jared Bednar. He's been here before. He's been in the playoffs before. He knows his team. Again, you got Nathan McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Kadri. List goes on and on. And I mean, Colorado's got an amazing team. They're going to go far. I have them winning the cup this year. Just the depth on that team is unreal.
Yeah.
For sure.
And play a style of game that not many teams are going to be able to beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I love the style they play, and I love Jared Bednar's coaching style for sure. If we don't have any more comments, I think that's it for our show. Unless there's anyone else that has any questions. But I think if that's all that I got, all that we got, Tim, unless you have any other closing comments.
That about wraps it up.
Yeah, that's all the material that we got. I think we'll give it up to Jake, and he can.
That's my cue, boys.
Yeah. We'll give it up to Jake, and he'll introduce Elizabeth and Hunter for Behind the Basket. Do not go anywhere, guys. You got a great basketball show coming up next.
All right, you heard him. I mean, he just did the outro for me, so that's it. I'm going to just end the show. I don't need to do the outro if he can do it for me. You guys have a great night. We'll see you in literally about 2 minutes for Behind the Basket.